Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome, everyone, to another Hot Briefing sessions by Technology Council Foundation. I would like to very quickly welcome the people who are on the panel who are we are going to speak with. So today with me, I am Vishwaroop Ghosh, and today with me I have got Debarshi Mukherjee, who is joining me. Then I have got Harshada Watkar joining us. Harshada Watkar works for IKP. Debarshi Mukherjee is with Coursera. I work for Cambium Networks. We are all of us are a member of Technology Council Foundation. And this is an effort, the Hot Briefings is an effort from all of us to bring together a discussion on topics that matter most for the technology world. I would like to also welcome Anamika Talui. She is a legal counsel with EdgeVerb, a subsidiary of Infosys. Welcome Debarshi, welcome Harshada, welcome Anamika to the Hot Briefing session of Technology Council Foundation.
Thank you, Vishal.
Thank you,
If you can give me a heads up, if you can hear me, if you can. All right, everything sounds fine. Thank you very much. So now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce to all of us on this hot briefing our guest, the person that with whom we are going to talk with. We are today going to talk with Abhishek Jain. Advocate Abhishek Jain. He is an erudite lawyer. He practices in various courts, primarily out of Delhi. He has got an immense experience working on matters pertaining to sexual harassment. So therefore, we found it absolutely, it's a pleasure for us. We found it absolutely important to bring Abhishek's experience to the forum, to bring in front of you a discussion on a topic uh, about prevention of sexual harassment, so that we can all work towards building a safe environment for women in technology. Before I bring up Abhishek and begin with the discussion, um, we are going to read out one letter that Walt Disney essentially sent out in 1938. Please listen to this letter. So, on having received a job application from a female candidate, here is the letter that was sent in 1938. Mind it, this is 1938 when a letter was sent to this female candidate stating that, Dear Miss Ford, your letter of recent date has been received in the inking and painting department for reply. Women do not do any of the creative work in connection with preparing the cartoons for the screen, as that work is performed entirely by young men. For this reason, girls are not considered for the training school. The only work open to women consists of tracing the characters on clear celluloid sheets with India ink and filling in the tracings on the reverse side with paint according to the directions. In order to apply for a position as inker or painter, it is necessary that one appear at the studio bringing samples of pen and ink and watercolor work. It would not be advisable to come to Hollywood with the above specifically in view, as there are really very few openings in comparison with the number of girls who apply. Now, when I read this letter, what strikes me as um, in today's world what would be considered to be at a complete short of a surprise is how women candidates were completely shunned off from some of the roles which were available, and these are mainstream roles that we are talking about. From there to today, the tech industry, the industry that we work in today, we are privileged to be able to find ourselves working together with female employees, and it's all of us our responsibility to make the environment as conducive as it is possible for the female employees. Sexual harassment remains a major problem, a chronic problem in the industry. So, therefore, we decided why not end the Valentine's week with this understanding of how to prevent such kind of sexual harassment, how to deal with sexual harassment from which continues to happen in the tech industry. What are the best practices? And with this, I'm going to bring up our speaker, Abhishek. Welcome. Welcome to the forum. Abhishek, thank you very much for joining us in the forum today. And we are pleased to be able to speak to you and hear your views on this very important topic about how to prevent sexual harassment, make the workplaces a better place, a conducive place for the female employees to be. What are the steps when faced with within the tech industry? What are the steps which when a company faces, how they go ahead and deal with it? So with this, um, I would like to start. And I would again like to thank all of you for having joined on a Friday evening with us for this discussion. Just for your reference, this discussion is live on LinkedIn as well as on YouTube. So I would request you to continue to follow our LinkedIn page as well as our YouTube page, the Technology Council Foundation YouTube page, to be aware of such kind of discussions which happen, which are material for us, and join us and be part of this communication. So, Abhishek, I would like to start by asking you the first question that we have for you today. And I'm going to bring up that question so that our listeners, our viewers can have a look at that question about what we are answering. We just spoke that sexual harassment of women is rising alarmingly, and this is something which is quoted in Forbes India article. It is we have spoken about it in our LinkedIn page as well. My question to you here, Abhishek, is the Posh Act, which came out in 2013, is it sufficient today to handle the issues that happen in today's remote hybrid workplaces? What do you think about it, Abhishek?
So, yes, starting with the question, it is indeed because when we talk about the POSH Act, starting from 2013 even till now, the relevance has changed so much as that the workplace has changed. The definition of workplace has changed, and from being in physical offices to coming down to where people are working from home, they are at different places. Maybe there are 10 people in the office at 10 different places. Even then it constitutes an office, a workplace, and that's why the same act that was applied to physical offices has now grown up and applies to virtual offices as well. So the definition has increased, the interpretation has broadened. So this is how it has happened. And to start with, the POSH Act is not just the final answer to what is actually happening. This is an enabling provision for women where the first problem that arises is with respect to communicating the problem. For example, if someone actually is facing this, then in that case, what exactly is to be done? Because in general, what we all know is that if an offense has been committed or if there is something that has wrong happened to someone, in that case, the first option that we all know is going to the police. But in general scenarios where maybe an offense has not been committed to an extent that maybe amounting to rape or maybe amounting to section 354, but something that is not making the woman comfortable, even things like these, how to report them. Because if people will go to the police directly, if women will go to the police directly, first there is a fear of going to the police. Second, there is a notion that if this comes out and the society gets to know about it, then it will become the problem for the woman herself. So, in order to replace such challenges, in order to bring a solution to all these challenges, this act was brought in. And we all know the history about it based on the Vishakha guidelines and how it has to be moved. I'll not get into that. But the basis of this act is to introduce a safe space for women so that whatever wrong is happening to them with respect to harassment or sexual harassment specifically can be informed and a conclusion can be received from it. This is what the POSH Act is all about. And now, because the definition of office has changed, so the POSH Act has also taken that into account, and that's how they're dealing with it.
Thank you. I think we should move to the next question.
Sure.
And Devashik.
Yeah. So, Abhishek, thank you for bringing out that perspective, right? That POSH is still relevant, even though the definition or practically office space has moved into a hybrid kind of a situation. Part of it is online, part of it is, and people are spread out across different areas. As well as thank you for bringing out why the POSH Act came in, right? To give out that or to bring in that safe space for women. However, let's look at the starting point, right? How to identify sexual harassment? What should be a woman's first response? Where should they notify this?
Okay. Sexual harassment is clearly defined in the Act with respect to certain points, which, if interpreted, goes on to include anything and everything, which you'll understand. So, to start with, any sort of physical contact, any demand or request for sexual favor, making any kind of sexually colored remark, showing pornography, and any other unwelcome physical, verbal, or non-verbal gesture or conduct that can amount or that is in sexual nature is defined as sexual harassment. And for the second question, where should they notify? So, as per the Act, I'll explain. There are an ICC. There's an internal complaints committee which is to be formed as per the Act for any place which has 10 or more than 10 employees, which constitutes of 4 members, 1 presiding officer, 2 members of the society who are actively involved in matters related to women empowerment or similar nature, and another person who is skilled or is informed about the law regarding it. And the mandate is that either half or the majority has to be women in that industry. So, when this ICC is formed, so the first step that has to be taken by any woman who feels that something wrong has happened is to file a written complaint with the ICC. And there is as per the provisions, that complaint has to be made in writing within 3 months from the last date of incident, which can further be extended to 3 months more if in case that she's able to explain that there is a delay because there were reasons that were prohibiting her or stopping her from making that complaint. Although there is an amendment that has been proposed by the government in this month only, where they are supposedly increasing the timeline from 3 months to 1 year. So this is how. So a written complaint is given to the committee, and based on that complaint, this committee uh, make an inquiry. In that inquiry, as per the rules, what happens is they have to give the copy of the complaint to the respondent against whom the complaint has been made. Now, based on that, a response has to be filed by the respondent within 10 days of receiving that complaint. And based on the response, one of the important aspects here is the conciliation. Because sometimes, and in fact, in a lot of cases, it has happened, or it so happens that one may feel that there is an element of harassment, but the other person did not mean to do it, or it happened unintentionally. In such situations, if the complaint agrees to it, then this committee has the power to make them sit together and make them sit for a conciliation and resolve the matter. But strictly, it can only happen if the complainant agrees to it. One. So now, based on it, they make an inquiry. So if this doesn't happen, if conciliation process fails, then in that case, what they have to do is they have to make an inquiry, get witnesses from both sides who can tell about what happened, and based on the submissions made by both parties, they come to a conclusion whether this has happened or not. That is one, or to what extent, or whose mistake is it. So, based on the submissions made, an answer is given by the committee. Also, in cases where there are offices where there are less than 10 people, or government offices, a local committee is formed, which is important, as this is under the chairmanship. This is under the chairmanship. Again, 4 people are part of it. This is made by the district officer. The district officer is a person of the rank of district magistrate or similar, and it is the duty of the district officer to ensure that such and such committee is formed, and whenever a complaint is raised, that the committee gives a safe space to the woman and provides a mechanism where she can get justice. Also, there is one of the duties of these LCCs is to ensure that people in general are made aware of what are their rights and duties with respect to sexual harassment. Also, they have to conduct inquiries and they have to submit reports. So that is for further. Yeah.
So, Abhishek, thank you for laying it out in such great detail. This is very helpful. Let's say a complainant, right, is not comfortable in going or filing the complaint with this committee setup and has a feeling that it could be biased, right? Is there any other recourse? Can this complainant go outside and file a complaint under this act?
Definitely. So, what happens is, in cases where the person against whom the complaint is being made is either the employer, or at a position where he has good influence in the office, it becomes obvious that the person the complainant will not be comfortable in filing a complaint, because ultimately it would lead to problems in her own career. So in cases like these, they can directly go to the local committee, which is a government setup. And when a complaint is filed, the same procedure is followed by the local committee, where once they receive a written complaint, so based on the rules or the service rules that apply, if that apply to that office, based on that, they'll start their inquiry, and again, the same procedure will be followed.
Thank you. Thank you, Abhishek.
Thank you, Abhishek. This is actually enlightening. My previous 4 bosses have been women, I feel really grateful to be to have experienced being led by strong women. So I want to understand if there are any best practices for the company to handle such issues. Who should be constituted in the POSH committee? And a follow-up question to that is, I work with a lot of startups. So generally, when they're starting, it's just founders, co-founders, maybe few people they hire. So how they should handle these issues, or they should form a committee? What is the answer for that?
So, as I have already said, one step, if there are 10 or more than 10 employees, then they have to form an ICC. And mind you, one important thing is that even if a company has four offices at four different places, and if the number of and so the committees have to be formed based on individual offices and not a centralized committee that will take care of all the offices. This is how it has to be, number one. Second, when they're forming this committee, for example, if you're talking about the startups, in such cases where there are less than 10 people, they can directly go and file a complaint to the local committee, which is a government functionary. I think
Thank you.
that has covered.
Thank you. Thank you, Abhishek. So we'll move on to the next question, Anamika.
Thank you, Abhishek. It was quite informative, and it's good to know what a female employee should do if uh, they're in this kind of situation, and what is the way out they have. And in light of that, we would like to know what the company should be doing post notification, and basically how to deal with the situation with sensitivity, and how prompt that company should be doing that.
So, as per the Act, there are clear guidelines as to what are the duties of an employer, which starts with the first and the foremost thing is to provide a safe space for the complainant. So this is how it starts, and based on how they want to go ahead with it, they can give things like giving her a period of 3 up to 3 months for work from home. If they can shift her to another office, or if there is any other place she can work from, that can be done. So basically, it is about providing a safe space for her. Also, what they can do on the respondent side is they can ask the person to be either on garden leave, or they can ask the person, or they can suspend the person as well if the allegations are so strong. Then what they can do is they can suspend the person for the time period till the inquiry is completed. Also, uh, they can I think this is it.
Thank you. I mean, so as soon as the note, I mean, say a woman employee comes to say the ICC that we spoke about, the internal complaints committee, right? So then at that point of time, what would they go on to do? I mean, they will go ahead and instruct does the internal complaints committee go ahead and come together and start setting up inquiries? I mean, how do they go ahead, and in your experience, how do they
I'll
go
tell you
ahead
how
and
practically it works.
yes,
So what
that's
happens is, as per the Act, the committee has to be formed of at least four people. I've already told you about the constitution of the committee and the kind of members that are part of it. The committee is always headed by a woman, and there will always be a person with a background uh, who work in the issues of women empowerment and helping women in social platforms. So how they have to take up is, after receiving the complaint, they'll give a copy to the respondent. After this, the respondent has to file a response. Based on this, they will call for witnesses from both the parties. Now, they can call the affidavits from the witnesses, or they can call the witnesses in person as well. And to tell you something, this committee has the power equivalent to a local civil court, where they can actually send out a notice to either the witness or the respondent, and force them and make them ensure that the person comes to the committee and record their statement, and based on these statements, further action, whatever, however it falls out, they have to answer, like they have to decide as to the person is guilty or not, or the allegations are proved or not.
So, Abhishek, I mean, one question that comes to my mind is, is it, I mean, as part of the procedure, or is it very normal to have legal representations for women at the stage where, or for even for that person against whom the accusation has been made? Is it normal to have a legal representation at that stage? Can I, or a woman, bring a lawyer in front of the ICC when such kind of a thing, or is it even something which is
Absolutely not, Biswarup. So the act clearly says that during this inquiry by the committee, no legal representation can be made on behalf of any of the parties.
I
In
see?
cases where the complainant feels that she is unable to represent herself, she can call someone from the family. This I've seen has been allowed in some of the inquiries, or someone, maybe a friend, maybe a colleague who was there at that time. Such people can be included, but no legal representation can be made on behalf of either of the parties.
Fantastic. I mean, of course, we got into the inquiry bit. In fact, this is something that I wanted to ask, that what happens during the inquiry. So we have already started answering this question, that the parties come together, they represent in front of the committee which has been set up, and
Correct.
then there is no legal representation which is allowed at that stage.
Correct.
So, and at that point of time, the employee, I mean, the person who is accused can be sent on a garden leave or can be put on suspension at that
Correct.
point of time. And
Hmm.
additionally, there would be, now, my question is that what are the best practices to record such kind of a communication, conversation? I mean, do you suggest that the companies go ahead and record it, do it over, say, a video call? And record that video call? Is there any issue with recording it over a video call, or does it have to happen over a physical sort of a meeting between the parties?
Ideally, it's all done with paper involved. There has to be everything in written, but now we have seen that the companies have started taking videos as well, especially for witnesses and complainants. Although I have not yet come across a case where respondent was allowed to appear through VC, but I have seen cases where the complainant was allowed to record her statement or appear before the committee through VC, or one of the witnesses, because she was somehow not comfortable coming in front, had recorded her statement through VC before this committee. So ideally, it should be done on paper, but because we are in 2024 and we are talking about technology around us, so this has entered there, where they are using 100% technology to record statements as well.
And is there a time limit within which the committee has to go back and complete the inquiry and go ahead and
Yes,
submit their
yes. This
inquiry
all
out?
has to be completed within a period of 90 days.
3 months, yeah. So 90
Correct.
days. 90 days is what is the time limit. And
Correct.
is that so? If the committee is not able to complete that, so what are the kind of options does a woman have at that point of time? If suppose an inquiry doesn't get completed within 90 days.
In case the inquiry is not getting completed, then And if the woman feels that there is something wrong, or there is some kind of malice that is happening which is delaying the inquiry, then she can complain it to the local committee,
So, I
and
mean,
it is for the district officer to take appropriate action against that committee or the employer, as suggested by the rules.
so I mean, we continue to see this bit that it's. I mean, there is always an option to go to the local committee, the
Correct.
LCC that you're talking about.
Correct.
But ICC is being formed, an internal committee is being formed and given the power to ensure that there is confidentiality, there is privacy of the woman,
Correct.
and then
See, understand the reason. As I started, the reason for POSH is to ensure that women get justice. One, how did they get justice, or how did they not get justice earlier? Was going to the police was a problem. Going out to the society was a problem. Like for example, I have friends who are from Delhi and work in cities like Hyderabad, Bangalore, Mumbai. There, they know it that going to police station is not an option for a lot of them, because either they'll be mistreated in the police station, with all due respect to the police authorities, but it happens. Also, they cannot come and tell this to their parents, because the first answer a lot of them would get from their parents is, okay, if there is a problem, come back home. So no one wants to jeopardize their careers. So, in order to help in cases like these, POSH Act was formed, and this is how it helps. That, and when an ICC is formed, and when there are women who are either part of your office, or who are there, who work for women empowerment, or who are there to help women, they can understand your concern, because ultimately it's about providing a safe space first, and when there is an empathy connected to it, the other person can feel it. There is no rejection. There is not an there's no one will be pointing fingers at the complainant saying that you must have done something wrong to make it happen, which ultimately happens in the society a lot.
understood.
So this is how ICC works, and this is why ICC is there at first place, and that is the final benefit of it as well.
Sure. Thank you.
So, Abhishek, I mean, this was very helpful when you laid down like what happens during the inquiry process, right? But I think the end goal is always, bringing justice to the front, right?
Correct.
Justice has to be delivered. So, I wanted to understand like what happens post the inquiry, and the other issue is, the complainant or the aggrieved would not want it to linger for a long time, right? It's not good for the organization, it's not good for the complainant, right? So how do we bring such cases to closure fast? How do we expedite these?
Uh, See, as per the act, there is a time period of 90 days that has been fixed. So, if all the timelines are adhered to, then it becomes easier for the committee to gather the evidence quickly, to ensure that witnesses depose quickly, to ensure that whatever decisions have to be made based on the submissions by the parties. So if the timelines are followed well as per the rules, then it can be brought in, or the decisions can be made well within time. And in fact, in a lot of cases, it happens that the committees reach to their conclusions within a period of 90 days. Although it might sound a lot of time for any person, but as speaking from the point of a lawyer, this is a real quick time where a decision is being given out by a committee.
Right.
Uh,
And I understand. I mean, what you're saying practically, you're seeing that many of these cases are getting resolved, and committees are sticking to the timelines. Also, what I wanted to understand is what happens post the inquiry, right? So the inquiry has been done. What is the outcome? How it is affected?
So after the inquiry has been completed, so it will be either a yes or no answer. Either it is proven or not proven. So in cases where it is not proven, they can submit their report directly to the employer, or the DO, the district officer, and close the case. Or even when there is no, it is not proven, they can still give out some kind of suggestions or sort of punishment to the complainant to ensure that such things, even if happened accidentally, do not happen in future. For example, in a case that I saw, uh, finally the parties, they consi- there was a conciliation between them. They finally understood that it was a mistake, but to ensure that it doesn't happen again, the respondent was told to stay out of the hostel for 6 months. So it was only a preventive measure, but it happened. But in cases where it is proved that such and such wrong has happened or the allegations are true, in that case, there are again a lot of answers to it. They can forward it to the police station to register an FIR. They can forward it to the district officer to take appropriate steps. First, it is given to the district officer, then they pass it on to the concerned police station. They can give penalty. Monetary compensation can be given to the complainant. They can also give other forms of penalties, like giving social service to be done by the respondent, or some sort of uh, punishment.
So, I mean, the closure of the cases are generally something which either the company can take into account by having taken an action against the person who is against whom the allegation had arisen. That is on one end, and then there is on the other end, essentially, if there is no clear answer which is coming in from the company, then it could go to the district officer. Is that how it works? I mean, it goes to the
Right.
district officer
So
and
there
then.
is a time period of 60 days for the employer or the district officer to comply with the committee's action. So whatever has been decided by the committee, they forward the response to the DO or the employer, and in this time it is for the employer. Like for example, a lot of times it so happens that a compensation is granted to the complainant, which obviously has to be either deducted from the salary of the employee or directly given by the employee. So, because in cases where the employee is terminated, in such cases, it can so happen that they can forward the complaint to the local revenue officer, who, like a civil action, can initiate action against the respondent and get that compensation given to the complainant.
So when you say a respondent against whom the allegation had been made and against whom that action
Correct.
has been done.
Correct.
Fantastic, fantastic. Okay, so I mean, just to give a summary, so far we have discussed when a sexual harassment can be detected. I mean, what comes into when a sexual harassment is happening, then figuring out at immediately when a sexual harassment situation has happened, how to do the notification. And we heard from you that it can be done to the ICC, Internal Complaints Committee, or it could be done to the LCC, the Local Complaints Committee, which is being there, especially for the startups, which essentially might not have that sort of a manpower to run such kind of committees within the organization.
Correct.
In case women do not find the solution that they are looking for within the organization from their ICC, they essentially can go to the LCC to find their solution over there.
Correct.
Then we spoke about then once the notification has been done, we again additionally we spoke about the composition of this ICC and how powerful this ICC has been made to take care of these kind of sexual harassment complaints and issues. Then after that, we spoke about what goes in with respect to the inquiry. When the inquiry is happening, what goes in the inquiry. And one key point which came up in the discussion was legal representation is not there. So essentially, this is not the place to bring in the lawyers, but bring in the actual matter in front of the set of people who can actually take a call on that.
Although I'll
And
add,
then
despite there's a bar from representation, a lot of time it so happens because let's say there is a respondent who knows that he did not do anything, but has been involved in a matter. In that case, a lot of people seek legal help, and they don't bring it up like before the committee, but people get to know about what can be done, what is the further recourse they have, or what kind of defense they need to put, or what kind of witnesses they need to put before the committee in order to prove that they are not guilty.
right. That's a fair point. I mean, and then post we have done that. I mean, the inquiry has happened, and then the committee has. So situation is where one, the committee have come to a conclusion, or the situation two is the committee is not able to come to a conclusion. And so when it comes to a conclusion, then in that kind of a situation, there are two conclusions which can be either it has happened or it has not happened. And we are going to touch upon on the frivolous complaint part maybe a little later. But then if it has happened, then the options are the employer is supposed to take certain actions, and that action could look like termination of that employee, or in fact monetary compensation if it is suitable in that kind of a situation. Or if there is something which the employer is not able to take a decision, then it goes to the district officer. If I have not mispronounced it, or I have not
District officer,
called
correct.
it out, the district officer, where the district officer is supposed to go ahead and take the action. And all of this is time bound. This is what is very interesting to understand, that this is very time bound. It has to happen in a time bound manner,
Correct.
so that there is no delay in the way that such kind of situations are handled. Thank you very much for bringing these points, and I'd like to pass on the mic to Harshada for the next question that we have.
Yes. So, this is 2024. The gender fluidity or identification of people, self identification, is a new thing now. So, posh is applicable for people who belong to the LGBTQIA plus community also, is my question. And if someone identifies as a woman, I understand that it is applicable to women as per law. But if someone uh, is identifying as a woman, maybe not by birth is a woman, so is it applicable to them as well?
Right now, no. The act clearly mentions that there is an aggrieved woman. Only an aggrieved woman can file a complaint. And since we as a society are not mature, at least till now, or culturally we are not there yet to include people who identify themselves as other gender or are the fluid about it. So till now, the only answer I have is that only women can file such complaints.
So I mean, my question there, Abhishek, is what does someone do? I mean, this is a protection only given to women, and we continue to see rise of say third gender being included into the workforces, and it is likely that the third gender might also be in a position of harm in the workplaces.
Mhm.
So, what do they do? Do we have an answer for this yet, or is it something which is still open for us to figure out? What do you think?
This is like answering on behalf of men, because when the act specifically tells you about that, in fact the name of the act, the sexual harassment of women at workplace prevention, prohibition and redressal act, this is what the title of the act is. And since it only includes women, all other genders, be it man or be it trans, they are yet not part of it. And the final answer is, for their recourse they can go to the police station, they can make complaints, they can, but the procedure like this will not be followed. Number one. Number two, the only option then left for them is go to the nearest police station, although I'm
Okay,
not
and
sure what kind of answers they'll get there as well.
I mean, Abhishek, this intrigues me a lot. Okay, so what does a company do? Because from a company's perspective, maybe the way that the law has been drafted and the way that the legislative intent might have been to only keep it limited to the women employees. But aren't we missing, maybe an upcoming, part of the population and kind of missing them
Yes.
into the
With
workplace?
see only with respect to private workplaces where they can form the ICC, there they can include men as well. But as I
I see.
said, they'll not follow the same procedure. Maybe they'll follow something similar to it, but the entire way the way all the rules have been set up by the Posh Act, or the way the guidelines have been given by the Posh Act, that same may not be followed. But yes, they can come to a conclusion based on whatever evidence they get, or whatever, or if there are strong evidence against it, they can take action. Definitely they can, because it's a private space. But that will not be clearly under the Posh Act. That will be part of the misconduct, because that definition is part of the other in the Industrial Disputes Act.
So,
Now it is
you
taken as a
mean to say,
misconduct, but not as a sexual harassment.
just to be clear, so you mean to say that if a company wishes to, the company can expand the ambit of such a policy for other people, for the other genders,
Yes,
but that does not mean that this kind of recourses are available for those genders under this act,
correct.
but a company can choose to bring it,
Correct.
as well as the kind of recourses are available under the IPC.
IPC, or maybe to start with the misconduct, because this is what practically happens a lot of times when the companies have to reach to a conclusion for men or for trans. I have not seen a case with trans, but where there a complaint has been made by a man against a woman, and if there are concrete evidence to show that something wrong has happened, then they treat it as misconduct, and they can take whatever action they want to, including termination, which is, and even because filing a complaint doesn't really give it an answer to man, because there is no section yet that would say that he has been harassed by a woman.
Understood. Understood. Sure. Let's pass on the mic for the next question to Anamika. Just hold on. I'm going to. Thank you, Anamika. You can hear us.
Yes, thank you, Vishwal. Um, um, we would like to understand, Abhishek, that um, of course there is a recourses available for an female employee inside the organization, and ICC handles this kind of complaints within the organization. But what happens if there is any false allegation that goes in front of the committee, and how does basically committee handles this kind of allegations?
Well, this is an issue where, this is not only a question. We can have a separate talk on it for an hour, just based on the false complaints. But to answer your question, uh, one thing that they can do is, see, generally, practically, what happens is when they find out that the allegations are false, practically it happens that they close down the complaint, they tell everyone to go back to their own home. But what actually happens is that the stigma that is attached to the complaint gets along the men. So, in a lot of cases that I have seen, being a defense counsel, this is what I see most of times, that when false complaints are made, it actually ends up destroying, or maybe at least for that time, harassing the male. And there's no answer as to what can be done against it, even though they find out that it's a father. The last they can do is they'll terminate the woman, but that doesn't give an answer to the man, where he has already been labeled as maybe a rapist. because because most of the time it happens when the people in the company get to know that such a complaint has been made. The first thing that comes to mind is, okay, he has done it. So in fact, this is what I keep telling a lot of people, and this is what the committees are given guidelines as well, to be unbiased, and to actually take up this with the principles of natural justice, that a person is not guilty unless proven otherwise, and it has to be beyond reasonable doubts. So that is something that is important for the society to learn, that is important for the corporates to learn, that there are a lot of false complaints, that a lot of times it so happens that the complaints are not proved right, or they, in fact, is so much so that there are forged documents that are brought in to file a complaint. So even when this happens, uh, they just file their response, the committees file their response saying that nothing has been proven, and since nothing has been proven, there's no action to be taken. But there hardly I have seen that actions are being taken against the complainant, for that matter. Although there are some instances where things have happened, that women employees have been terminated, or in fact complaint was filed for giving false information. So things have happened, they have started to happen, but mostly nothing happens in favor of men.
And also, Abhishek, we understand that these inquiries happen within the organization if it goes through ICC. But does the act mandates the companies to report it to any government authority further
Yes, yes, yes.
once these
So what
inquiries
happens
are
is,
coming?
uh, when the local committees are formed, so it is for them to check in their area, because when a district officer is appointed, it is their duty, as part of the guidelines given by this act, to collect information with respect to the number of complaints filed, number of complaints pending, number of inquiries done within 90 days, number of inquiries not done within 90 days, and the reasons for it. Also, everything that goes on with it.
It is their duty to collect the information, or it
Yes,
is
yes, it is
company
for the
duty?
local, the DO to collect all this information.
Okay, okay.
Well, I think there are always there these two sides of the coin. Essentially, when there is a law, there is also that the chances of someone coming up and trying to misuse the law. And
Correct.
when you speak about from what happens when there is a frivolous complaint, it's heartening to know that yes, there are mechanisms. At least even if there is not going to be maybe a concrete action under this law, but making people aware that filing a frivolous complaint is something which can bring them to harm's way within the organization by at least bringing challenge to their livelihood, would essentially kind of restrict people, at least maybe, from filing such kind of a frivolous complaint. And it seems to be a lot on onus on the ICC, the Internal Complaints Committee, to make sure that they are handling these complaints with the kind of sensitivity for both the sides, knowing that there can be a situation. So it's important for them to know how to handle this sensitively. Um, One final question, Abhishek. Wanted to understand, how does technology play a role? Can technology play a role? Right. So there are these tons of information that are available. A lot of these kind of activities, a lot of these kind of inquiries might have been happening within various organizations. What can technology do? I mean, can they make companies reach to the decision faster? Can it help bringing a lot more clarity, transparency into the way the inquiries are done? What can technology do, Abhishek? I mean, can you throw
Yes,
some light over
see,
this?
for all the benefits that technology allows in regular course, the same applies to these committees as well. So, for example, like I had already discussed, there have been instances where the complainant or the witness was allowed to testify on VC and was not bothered to actually come physically to the committee and then submit the report. That is one. Second, this plays a very important role at the time of recording of evidence. For example, like we are having this conversation right now, and we are probably sitting in two, three different cities. So, in take for example a structure like this in a company where everything is being recorded. So if someone does something wrong, then if there is recording of it, then it becomes easier for the committee to decide what actually happened, because just a complaint sometimes may not be enough. But if there is a video proof, then again, this is the technology that is helping. Another point is the case management systems. So this tool of case management system, this has made easier for inquiries to be set up, to be completed, or to be managed, or to be uh, reported in such a way that it actually is easier to manage. So these are the benefits that technology gives to the act.
That's absolutely interesting to hear, Abhishek. And we have another couple of minutes. We have budgeted at least another 5 minutes to go. So if there are any questions from the live audience, uh, you're welcome to go ahead and put it on the chat. Or in case you end up you require to have some of the clarifications being brought to you on a confidential manner, because we understand how sensitive this is, and if you want to basically have a confidential discussion around this, so please reach out over DM to take off, and we are going to connect you with Abhishek so that you can have a confidential discussion around this, because we understand some of it, if it is something which very sensitive for an organization,
Okay.
for a woman,
This
might
this
not.
this actually reminds me of something that we probably have missed. That how important it is to keep the identity of the complainant a secret. That there are particular sections regarding it. Anyway, there are judgments by Supreme Court, the law regarding it as per IPC, but even as per POSH Act, there are specific sections that say that in what way the identity has to be kept secret. Number one, and if in cases where people they tell the identity of the complainant, then how they can be punished, or to what level or extent they can be punished, this is also mentioned in the act.
So I mean, can you throw some light? I mean, what happens? I mean, in case a woman's identity, woman goes ahead and file and go ahead and notifies, and then someone is a miscreant within the committee, goes ahead and um, gives out the identity of the woman for any reason. What happens? What can be done in that kind of a situation?
In situations like these, they can be penalized, they can be suspended, and whatever actions an employer needs to take, they can take it.
So you mean to say that immediately at that point of time the committee will be dismantled,
Yes, yes,
or would the
service rules
committee
apply.
continue to?
See, for things like these, they all come under the action of misconduct. So, as per service rules, misconduct is taken seriously. And in such cases, if there is a proven misconduct, yes, in fact, there's a provision in as per the rules of the POSH Act that penalty up to rupees 5,000 can be levied on such persons.
And
So essentially, I mean, that's very interesting, because essentially that means that there is an onus on the committee members to keep it confidential, private, and make sure that the privacy of that particular person
Correct.
is.
And
at the top. Sorry, Devarshi, you
yeah,
had a
yeah.
question.
So, Abhishek, we understood, and that's, I think, probably a very pertinent point, maintaining confidentiality. Does that same apply when the inquiry, the inquiry is done and the report has been, or the result has been sent to the DO?
Yes, it
Will the
applies.
DO have
Yes,
similar confidentiality?
yes, absolutely. It's not only about when the inquiry is happening or when the matter is, even if the report says that the allegations have not been proved, the same amount of confidentiality has to be maintained.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Well, I do we see any questions on the LinkedIn? I don't see. Okay, fine. I do not see questions coming up on YouTube as well. So, of course, I mean, but it's totally understandable that there are, of course, every situation is very unique. And then additionally, if there are questions, then difficult to bring it up on a public forum. So we totally respect that. Uh, we'd like to bring this to a closure. This was a fantastic discussion that we got to know about the whole process, which has been laid out. So, and India maybe is one of the few countries which has got such a powerful law to protect the interests of the women in workplaces. um, and it is absolutely important for us, for the companies, in fact even for startups, as we heard from Abhishek, to go ahead and make the best use of this law to make sure that the women find a safe workplace within the tech industry.
Absolutely.
So I would like to go ahead and thank Abhishek for taking out your time, for speaking with us, coming with your experience in having handling such situations from the defense side and sometimes from the prosecution side as well. So when we got to hear about when you passionately spoke about how you would defend some of the frivolous claims, it was fascinating to hear. Thank you. And I would like to thank Devarshi for again joining with me on this hot briefing. Mate, we should continue to do this. Bring all the knowledge out there in the world in this consolidated 1 hour format. I'd like to thank Harshada for joining us, bringing on some of the perspectives, some of the questions. Thank you very much. And I would like to thank Anamika for bringing her perspective, her questions, and especially the questions about how to basically go ahead and do it, even when you have to do it outside of the structure of POSH. Very important. So thank you all. Thank you all who joined
Thank you,
in. You
Kishore.
will continue to see this. You will continue to see the recording on LinkedIn as well as YouTube. So continue to revisit that, and we will look forward to meet you again very soon with our next hot briefing. That's going to be on AI, the licensing terms with respect to AI, one of the topics which are very close to us. For that, please keep an eye out on the LinkedIn page of Technology Council Foundation. And I would like to say happy weekend. And then again, happy Valentine's week to all. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Kishore.
Kishore. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Abhishek.
you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.